Commander Vexital stared at the holographic display with growing unease. The blue-scaled alien had served in the Galactic Council's Deep Space Monitoring Division for over 2 decades, but he had never seen readings like these. "Run the scan again," he ordered his subordinate, a young Zalani technician whose tentacles danced nervously over the control panel. "Sir, I've run it 12 times already. The results are the same." Vexital's throat sacs inflated with stress. The massive object on their sensors should not exist. It measured nearly 15 kilometers in length, twice the size of the Council's largest dreadnought. But size wasn't what troubled him most. The energy signature was completely unknown, unlike anything in their vast galactic database. "Where did it come from?" Vexital asked. The technician's skin changed to a pale yellow, indicating confusion. "That's the problem, sir. Our long-range sensors show it emerged from empty space. No jump gate activation, no hyperspace ripples, nothing. It simply appeared." Vexital walked closer to the display. The ship's design was alien in the truest sense of the word. Where Council vessels were built with flowing curves and organic shapes, this craft was all sharp angles and brutal efficiency. Its hull appeared to absorb their sensor beams rather than reflect them, making detailed scans nearly impossible. "Send the data to High Command immediately," Vexital ordered, "and get me a trajectory analysis." While his crew worked frantically at their stations, Vexital studied the mysterious vessel. Something about it felt familiar, though he couldn't place what. The design philosophy reminded him of something from his military academy days. Some old lesson about extinct species and their primitive but effective warships. "Sir," the technician called out, his voice barely a whisper. "The trajectory analysis is complete." Vexital turned, noting the technician's skin had shifted to deep purple, the color of fear among his species. "What is it?" "The ship's course. It originates from the Sol system." The command center fell silent. Every being present knew the history of Sol. It was a cautionary tale taught to young council members about the dangers of allowing aggressive species to develop unchecked. 300 years ago, the system had been home to a species called humans, a violent and unpredictable race that had shown alarming technological progress. The council had made a decision that was still debated in political circles. They had implemented what they called a cleansing protocol, sterilizing the Sol system to prevent human expansion into the galaxy. It was harsh but necessary, they told themselves. Humans were too dangerous to coexist with peaceful species. "That's impossible," Vexital said, but his voice lacked conviction. Sol was sterilized. Something survived. "Sir, should I inform the High Council?" Before Vexital could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the monitoring station. The mysterious ship had changed course and was now accelerating at impossible speeds toward the inner galaxy. Within hours, the news reached the highest levels of the Galactic Council. Emergency sessions were called on every major world. The great chambers of the Council headquarters buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss this unprecedented situation. Chancellor Morden, an ancient being whose species had helped found the Council millennia ago, called for order. His voice carried the weight of centuries of diplomatic experience. "We are here to discuss the emergence of an unknown vessel from the Sol system," he announced. "Our scientific advisors have confirmed that the ship's design and materials are consistent with advanced human technology." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Several younger representatives had never even heard of humans except in history lessons. To them, humans were as extinct as any other failed species. "Chancellor," interrupted Ambassador Kreeth, a tall insectoid being known for her analytical mind. "Are we certain this is of human origin? Perhaps another species has colonized the system." The Chancellor's expression remained grave. "Our xenoarchaeologists have spent the last day analyzing the ship's hull composition. The metallurgy matches samples recovered from human settlements before the cleansing. More disturbing, the energy patterns suggest technology that surpasses our current understanding." The chamber erupted in worried chatter. How could a supposedly extinct species possess technology beyond the Council's capabilities? Dr. Yilnas, the Council's chief xenobiologist, approached the speaker's platform. She was one of the few beings present who had actually studied living humans before their extinction. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I fear we may have made a grave miscalculation 3 centuries ago. Human psychology was unlike any species we had encountered. They possessed an unusual trait called adaptability that allowed them to survive in impossible conditions. She activated a holographic display showing old human settlements. Humans didn't just live on their homeworld. They had established colonies throughout their system, including underground cities, space stations, and research facilities in the outer planets. If even a small population survived the cleansing, what are you suggesting? Chancellor Morden asked. I'm suggesting that humans may have spent the last 3 centuries not just surviving, but preparing. This ship represents technology that has had hundreds of years to develop in isolation, driven by one of humanity's most dangerous traits. Which is? Dr. Yilnas's next word sent a chill through the chamber. Their capacity for revenge. Humans never forgot a wrong done to them. If they survived, they would have remembered everything we did to their species. The implications hit every representative simultaneously. If humans had survived and had spent centuries developing advanced technology, the galaxy faced a threat unlike any in recorded history. Commander Vextal's voice crackled through the chamber's communication system. Chancellor, we have an update on the vessel's trajectory. Proceed. The ship has altered course again. It's now heading directly for the Kepler 442 system. A collective intake of breath filled the chamber. Kepler 442b was a former human agricultural colony that had been resettled by the Zilani after the cleansing. If the humans were truly returning, they would know exactly what they would find there. Ambassador Kreeth rose from her seat. We must mobilize our fleets immediately. If this truly is a human vessel seeking revenge, we cannot allow it to reach populated systems. With respect, Dr. Yilnas interrupted. Military action may be precisely the wrong approach. Human military doctrine emphasized overwhelming response to aggression. If we attack first, we may escalate a situation that could still be resolved peacefully. Chancellor Morden considered both perspectives. The Council had maintained peace for over a millennium through careful diplomacy and measured responses to threats, but they had never faced a situation quite like this. We will dispatch a diplomatic fleet to intercept the vessel, he decided. Our goal will be communication, not confrontation. If humans have truly returned, we must understand their intentions before taking any aggressive action. As the council session concluded, none of the representatives noticed the small maintenance droid recording their proceedings from a ventilation shaft. The device transmitted everything it heard to a distant location, where other ears listened with great interest. Far from the council's chambers in the depths of space, the massive human ship continued its steady course toward the inner galaxy. On its bridge, figures in dark uniforms monitored the council's emergency broadcasts with cold satisfaction. They had waited 3 centuries for this moment. Every slight, every lost colony, every murdered human had been catalogued and remembered. The galaxy had thought them extinct, but they had merely been patient. Now their patience was at an end. The time for hiding was over. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you tried to erase humanity from existence. The ship's captain smiled grimly as she watched the Council's diplomatic fleet scrambling to intercept them. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would understand the true meaning of fear. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Nemesis Protocol, watching the stars through the massive viewport. Her great-great-grandmother had been among the survivors who escaped Earth's destruction, and Sarah carried that legacy in every fiber of her being. The bridge was silent except for the soft hum of advanced systems that would have seemed like magic to the old galactic powers. Admiral, called Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. We're receiving multiple hails from the Galactic Council diplomatic fleet. Sarah didn't turn around. She had been expecting this. What are they saying? The usual diplomatic language. They want to talk, establish peaceful contact, understand our intentions. Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. After 300 years of silence, now they want to talk. She finally turned to face her crew. Open a channel on all galactic frequencies. It's time they heard from us. The communications array on the Nemesis Protocol was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Human engineers had spent centuries perfecting technology that could punch through any jamming system or defense network. When Sarah began speaking, every inhabited world in the galaxy would hear her words. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Fleet, she began, her voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of cold steel. 300 years ago, your Galactic Council declared war on my species. You didn't call it war, of course. You used words like cleansing and necessary action. You told yourselves it was for the greater good. On worlds throughout the galaxy, beings stopped what they were doing to listen to the transmission. Many had never heard a human voice before. There was something unsettling about it, something that spoke of intelligence matched with dangerous determination. You tried to erase us from existence, Sarah continued. You sterilized our worlds, destroyed our cities, and murdered billions of innocent people. You thought you had succeeded. You were wrong. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions had been called on dozens of worlds simultaneously. Representatives watched the transmission with growing alarm. We survived, Sarah's voice echoed through the galaxy. Not all of us, but enough. We lived in the dark spaces between stars, in hidden colonies you never found, in ships that drifted silent through the void. And while we survived, we remembered everything. The transmission paused for a moment, allowing the weight of those words to settle. On the bridge of the Nemesis Protocol, Sarah looked at the tactical display showing the positions of the Council's diplomatic fleet. During these 3 centuries, we studied you. We learned your languages, your customs, your technologies. We watched as you divided up our former colonies among yourselves. We saw how you built your museums, displaying artifacts from the extinct human species like trophies from a successful hunt. On Zalani Prime, Ambassador Kreeth felt her exoskeleton shiver. In the museum district of the capital, there indeed was a wing dedicated to human artifacts, described as relics of a primitive but fascinating species. We learned about your weaknesses too, Sarah continued. How your technology has grown stagnant over the centuries. How your military tactics haven't changed in millennia. How you've become comfortable in your superiority, convinced that you face no real threats. Dr. Yilnaz, listening from her laboratory, felt a chill run through her body. Everything the human was saying was true. The Council had become complacent, their technology advancing slowly, their military more concerned with ceremony than combat readiness. You want to know our intentions? Sarah asked, addressing the diplomatic hails that continued to flood their communications. I'll tell you. We're coming home. Every world that once belonged to humanity will be reclaimed. Every colony you stole from us will be returned. The transmission included a data packet that immediately spread across galactic networks. It contained detailed star charts marking former human settlements, complete with historical records of their populations, their cultures, and their fate at the hands of the Council. We don't want war, Sarah said, and for a moment hope flickered in the hearts of Council representatives. We want justice. We want acknowledgement of what you did to us, and we want our worlds back. She activated a holographic display visible to all receivers of the transmission. It showed the current location of the Nemesis Protocol, heading directly for Kepler 442b. In 72 hours, we will reach Kepler 442b, the world your records call New Zalani. We know it was originally New Kansas, a human agricultural colony with a population of 3 million. We have their names, their histories, their dreams for the future that you destroyed. The beings currently living on Kepler 442b felt fear grip their hearts. Many were descendants of the original Zalani settlers, who had been given the world after the human cleansing. We offer the current inhabitants the same choice you gave our ancestors, Sarah continued. Leave peacefully and you will not be harmed. Resist and face the consequences. You have 72 hours to decide. The transmission ended with a final chilling statement. This message is not a negotiation. It is an announcement. The age of human extinction is over. The age of human justice has begun. As the signal cut out, panic spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On thousands of worlds, beings looked up at the stars with new fear. The extinct humans had returned and they had not forgotten. In the council chambers, Chancellor Morden called for emergency mobilization of all defensive fleets. But even as orders were given, doubt crept into every mind. If humans had survived for 3 centuries in secret, what else had they been preparing? On Kepler 442b, the planetary governor called for calm, while privately beginning evacuation procedures for essential personnel. The human ship was still days away, but something in that admiral's voice suggested that humanity's patience, stretched over 3 centuries, was finally at an end. The galaxy's greatest mistake was about to demand payment, and the price would be higher than anyone could have imagined. In the depths of space, other ships began to stir. Hidden facilities powered up systems that had waited centuries for this moment. Across the galaxy, sleeper agents embedded in alien societies for generations received activation codes they had hoped never to see. The message had been more than a declaration. It had been a signal, the first move in a game the galaxy didn't even know it was playing. Humanity was not just returning to claim their lost worlds. They were returning to remake the galaxy in their own image. The Nemesis protocol dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, exactly 72 hours after Sarah's message. The massive human vessel drifted silently past the outer planets, its dark hull absorbing the system's pale starlight like a wound in space itself. Governor Velthar stood in the command center of Kepler 442b's orbital defense platform, watching the human ship approach. His green skin had turned pale with stress and his forearms trembled as he reviewed the evacuation reports. "How many civilians remain on the surface?" he asked his aide. "Approximately 40,000, sir. Most are in the remote agricultural regions. They refuse to leave their homes." Velthar understood their decision, even as he feared for their lives. Many of these families had lived on Kepler 442b for generations. To them it was home. They had no connection to the long-dead humans who once farmed these same lands. "Status of our defense fleet? 12 frigates and 2 heavy cruisers, sir. The Council reinforcements won't arrive for another 6 days." Velthar looked at the tactical display showing their forces arranged in a defensive formation between the human ship and the planet. It seemed laughably inadequate against the massive vessel approaching them. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human ship." "Put it through." Admiral Sarah Chen's image appeared on the main screen. She looked exactly as she had in her galactic broadcast, calm and controlled. But there was something different in her eyes now, a cold determination that made Velthar's blood freeze. "Governor Velthar," she said, somehow knowing his name. "I trust you received our message." "Admiral Chen," Velthar replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I appeal to your sense of reason. The beings on this world had nothing to do with what happened to your people centuries ago. They are innocent." Sarah's expression didn't change. "Were my people innocent when your predecessors murdered them? Were the children innocent when they died in the fires of your cleansing?" She activated a holographic display visible to everyone on the defense platform. It showed images from 3 centuries ago. Human families working the fields of New Kansas, children playing in the settlements, scientists studying the planet's unique ecosystem. "This was their home," Sarah said quietly. "They built their lives here, raised their families, dreamed of a future among the stars. Your people took that future away from them." "I understand your anger," Velthar said desperately, "but revenge will not bring them back. Please, there must be another way." "There was another way," Sarah replied. 300 years ago, there was diplomacy, negotiation, peaceful coexistence. Your ancestors chose violence. Now you reap what they sowed." The transmission ended, leaving the defense platform in tense silence. Velthar stared at the screen, knowing that his next decision would determine the fate of everyone in the system. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "the human ship is accelerating toward the planet. Our fleet is moving to intercept." Velthar watched as his small fleet positioned itself between the Nemesis protocol and Kepler 442b. The human ship showed no sign of slowing down. "All ships, this is Governor Velthar," he broadcast to his fleet. "You are authorized to engage if the human vessel does not change course. The lead Zelani cruiser, the Bright Current, opened fire first. Its plasma cannons unleashed a barrage that would have crippled any Council vessel. The energy beams struck the Nemesis protocol's hull and simply disappeared, absorbed by the ship's dark armor as if they had never existed." "Impossible," whispered the tactical officer. The human ship's response was swift and terrifying. Weapons ports that hadn't been visible before suddenly opened along its hull. But instead of energy beams or missiles, something else emerged. Streams of what looked like liquid metal shot out toward the attacking Zelani ships. The first frigate to be hit watched in horror as the metal substance spread across its hull like a living thing. Within seconds, the ship's own weapons turned inward, firing on its own systems. The vessel tore itself apart from the inside while its crew screamed in confusion and terror. "What is that?" Velthar demanded. His science officer, a young Zelani named Kiptal, stared at the readings in disbelief. "It appears to be some kind of nanotechnology, sir. It's taking control of the ship's systems and turning them against themselves." More frigates fell to the same horrifying fate. The Bright Current tried to retreat, but the human ship moved with impossible speed, placing itself directly in the cruiser's path. This time, the Nemesis protocol fired a different weapon, a beam of energy that seemed to phase in and out of existence. The beam passed through the cruiser's shields as if they weren't there, striking the ship's hull. But instead of exploding, the bright current simply began to come apart at the molecular level, its hull dissolving into space dust in a matter of seconds. The remaining ships of Velthar's fleet fled in panic, leaving the human vessel with a clear path to the planet. "Open a channel to all population centers," Velthar ordered, his voice barely a whisper. "This is Governor Velthar to all citizens of Kepler 442b, he announced. "I am ordering immediate evacuation of all settlements. Proceed to designated evacuation sites and board the transport ships. This is not a drill." The Nemesis protocol entered orbit around the planet but did not immediately attack. Instead, it began broadcasting something else. The personal histories of every human who had lived on New Kansas 3 centuries ago. In the cities below, Zalani families heard the stories of the farms that had once stood where their homes now sat. They learned about human children who had played in the same rivers where Zalani young now swam. They heard about dreams and hopes and lives cut short by violence they had never known about. "Why is she doing this?" Kiptal asked. Velthar understood even as it chilled him to his core. "She wants us to know what we took from them. She wants us to understand that every home down there was built on someone else's grave." The evacuation proceeded with surprising efficiency. Perhaps it was fear, or perhaps it was guilt. But most of the Zalani population cooperated with the emergency procedures. Transport ships lifted off from every major city, carrying refugees to other worlds. As the evacuation continued, something unexpected happened. Sarah Chen opened another channel to the planet's surface. "To the families leaving your homes," she said, her voice gentler than before. "I know this is difficult. I know many of you were born here, and this is the only world you've ever known. But understand this. My people felt the same way when they were murdered in their beds 3 centuries ago." She paused, letting her words sink in. "However, we are not like those who came before us. We will not kill the innocent. You have 6 more hours to complete your evacuation. After that, this world returns to human control, but no harm will come to those who leave peacefully." As the final transport ships lifted off from Kepler 442b, Velthar remained on his orbital platform, watching his world being abandoned. The evacuation had taken 68 hours, 4 hours ahead of the human deadline. "Sir," Kiptal said quietly, "the last transport has cleared the atmosphere. The planet is empty." Velthar nodded, feeling the weight of centuries of injustice settling on his shoulders. His people had lived here for 300 years, but now he understood. They had been squatters on a grave. The Nemesis protocol moved into a lower orbit, and smaller ships began deploying from its hull. Human colonists, descendants of the original New Kansas settlers, were coming home at last. As his platform prepared to depart the system, Velthar received one final message from Admiral Chen. "Governor," she said, "thank you for making the right choice. Your people showed wisdom that their ancestors lacked. Perhaps there is hope for coexistence after all." But even as she spoke those words, Velthar noticed something chilling. Long-range sensors were detecting other ships, dozens of them, emerging from hidden locations throughout the galaxy. The humans weren't just reclaiming one world. They were coming for all of them. The galaxy's reckoning had only just begun. 3 weeks after the peaceful evacuation of Kepler 442b, the galaxy's understanding of the human threat changed completely. What the Council had initially seen as a single rogue vessel seeking revenge was revealed to be something far more terrifying, a coordinated campaign by an entire hidden civilization. Admiral Zexkree, the Council's highest-ranking military commander, stood in the war room of the flagship Eternal Harmony. The massive Zerathi officer's 6 arms moved rapidly across holographic displays, showing ship movements throughout the galaxy. "Report," he ordered his intelligence officer. Commander Yilsha, a delicate-looking being whose species excelled at pattern recognition, manipulated the display to show dozens of red markers scattered across known space. 17 human ships have been confirmed, sir. Each one different from the others. Different how? They appear to be specialized vessels, each designed for specific purposes. She highlighted one marker near the Rigel system. This one destroyed 3 mining platforms without leaving a trace of debris. We believe it's equipped with matter disintegration technology. Another marker appeared near the galactic core. This ship somehow terraformed an entire world in 4 days. The transformation was so complete that the planet's original atmosphere was replaced with one suitable for human habitation. Zexakri's throat sacs contracted with worry. What about the ship near the Vega colonies? Yilsha hesitated before answering. That's the most disturbing one, sir. It seems to be invisible to our sensors. We only know it exists because of the effects it's having on nearby space. Effects? Ships that enter the region experience system failures. Their crews report seeing things that aren't there, hearing voices in languages they don't understand. 2 vessels have been found completely empty. Their crews vanished without a trace. The war room fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans weren't just technologically advanced. They had developed capabilities that bordered on the supernatural. "Sir," called another officer from across the room, "we're receiving reports from the Tau Ceti system. The human ship there has made contact with the local population." "Put it through." The holographic display showed a human vessel unlike any they had seen before. Where the Nemesis protocol was angular and intimidating, this ship was sleek and elegant, almost beautiful in its design. "Greetings, beings of Tau Ceti," came a calm female voice. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the human research vessel New Horizon. We have come to reclaim this system, which was once home to our Luna City colony." The response came from the Rigelian governor of the planet. "Captain Vasquez, we are prepared to negotiate for the peaceful transition of this world, as happened at Kepler 442b. "Negotiation will not be necessary," Elena replied. "You see, we have discovered something interesting about your species." The display showed detailed biological scans of the Rigelian population. "Our analysis indicates that your people's immune system is incompatible with the original terraforming compounds used on this world 3 centuries ago. Within 6 months of our recolonization beginning, the atmospheric changes will make this planet uninhabitable for your species." The Rigelian governor's voice shook as he responded. "That's impossible. We've lived here for over 200 years. "Yes, but you've been living with artificial atmospheric processors that we influenced to maintain conditions suitable for your species. Those processors will be reconfigured to support human life." Admiral Zexakri realized with growing horror what this meant. "They've been manipulating our colonies for centuries. How long have they been watching us?" The human captain continued her broadcast to Tau Ceti. "We offer you the same choice offered to all previous inhabitants of our worlds. Peaceful relocation to worlds suitable for your species, with our assistance in establishing new colonies. Or you may attempt to resist, though I should mention that resistance has proven unsuccessful." As if to emphasize her point, 3 Council patrol ships that had been approaching the system suddenly found their engines shutting down. They drifted helplessly as the human vessel moved past them without acknowledgement. "How are they doing this?" Zexakri demanded. His chief technology officer, a cybernetic being named Unit 47, interfaced directly with the fleet's computer systems. "Analysis suggests the humans have developed quantum-level manipulation technology. They're not just disabling our ships, they're rewriting the fundamental programming of our technology at the molecular level." The implications were staggering. If humans could manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level, traditional military tactics were useless. Shields, armor, weapons, everything the Council depended on for defense could be turned against them. "Sir," Yilsha called out urgently, "we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the galaxy. It appears the human ships are communicating with each other." The holographic display expanded to show the entire galaxy. Lines of energy connected each human vessel to the others, forming a vast network spanning thousands of light years. "It's a hive mind," whispered one of the junior officers. "No," Unit 47 corrected. "Analysis suggests it's something more sophisticated. A distributed intelligence network. Each ship maintains individual autonomy, while sharing information instantaneously across the galaxy." Admiral Zexakri felt his species' equivalent of despair. They weren't fighting individual ships or even a fleet. They were facing an entire civilization that had evolved specifically for this moment. "Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Council chambers." The image of Chancellor Morden appeared, looking older than his considerable years. "Admiral, what is your tactical assessment?" Zexakri looked around the war room at his demoralized staff before answering. "Chancellor, we are not fighting a conventional enemy. The humans have capabilities that our science cannot explain, and technology that surpasses ours by centuries. Worse, they appear to have spent those centuries studying our weaknesses. Are you recommending surrender? I'm recommending we acknowledge reality. Every engagement has been one-sided. They have disabled our ships without destroying them, evacuated populations without massacres, and demonstrated technologies that make our defenses irrelevant. The Chancellor's image flickered as another report came through. Admiral, we're now detecting 47 human vessels. Long-range sensors suggest more are emerging from hidden locations daily. 47 ships against the entire galactic fleet? One of Zexcree's officers asked hopefully. Unit 47's mechanical voice cut through any optimism. Analysis indicates each human vessel possesses firepower equivalent to approximately 100 of our heavy dreadnoughts. Correction. Analysis indicates our weapons are ineffective against their technology, making numerical comparisons irrelevant. As if responding to their conversation, a new transmission reached every ship in the galactic fleet simultaneously. Admiral Sarah Chen's face appeared on every screen. Military commanders of the Galactic Council, she began. Your forces have performed admirably under impossible circumstances. However, continuing to resist will only result in unnecessary suffering for your crews. She gestured, and the display showed real-time positions of every Council ship in the galaxy. As you can see, we are aware of your locations, your capabilities, and your limitations. We do not wish to harm those who serve their people faithfully. Therefore, we offer this. Stand down your fleets and no harm will come to your personnel. Continue to resist and we will be forced to demonstrate why such resistance is futile. The transmission ended, leaving the Council forces in a state of shocked silence. They weren't being defeated in battle. They were being hunted by predators who had spent 3 centuries preparing for this exact moment. Admiral Zexcree looked at his officers, seeing his own realization reflected in their eyes. The age of Galactic Council dominance was ending, and the age of humanity was beginning. The hunt was almost over, and they had been the prey all along. 6 months after the first human ship emerged from the void, the Nemesis Protocol hung in orbit above Galactic Prime, the Council's capital world. The massive human vessel dwarfed the planet's orbital defenses, which had powered down weeks ago in recognition of their uselessness against human technology. Below in the Great Assembly Hall, representatives from every major species in the galaxy waited in tense silence. Many had never seen a human before this day. Others remembered stories from their grandparents about the extinct race that had once threatened galactic peace. Admiral Sarah Chen walked through the hall's main entrance without escort or ceremony. She wore a simple black uniform marked only with the insignia of the Human Defense Fleet. Behind her walked 2 other humans, a tall man with silver hair who carried himself like a scientist, and a younger woman whose eyes seemed to catalog every detail of the alien representatives. Chancellor Morden rose from his ceremonial seat. Despite his species' impressive size and natural authority, he seemed diminished by the human admiral's calm presence. Admiral Chen, he said formally, the Galactic Council recognizes your request for an audience. Sarah looked around the vast chamber, taking in the architectural marvels of dozens of civilizations. Her expression remained neutral as she walked to the center of the hall. 300 years ago, she began, her voice carrying clearly to every corner of the chamber, human representatives stood in this same hall. They came seeking membership in your council, hoping to join the galactic community as equals. She activated a holographic projector, showing archival footage of humans in diplomatic uniforms addressing the ancient council. The images were young, hopeful faces speaking words of peace and cooperation. You denied them, Sarah continued. Not because they were warlike, as you claim in your histories. Not because they were aggressive or dangerous. You denied them because they were different. The hologram shifted to show classified council documents from 3 centuries ago. Many representatives shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the debates their ancestors had held about the human problem. Your records show the real reason, Sarah said, her voice remaining calm despite the damning evidence. Humans advanced too quickly. Human technology developed along different paths than yours. Human society refused to conform to your established patterns. Dr. Yilnus, the Council's xenobiologist who had studied the original humans, stood up slowly. Admiral Chen, the decision to implement the cleansing protocol was made in a different time, under different circumstances. Sarah turned to face her. Dr. Yilnaz, your research was used to justify genocide. Tell me, what were those circumstances that made murdering an entire species necessary? The elderly scientist's voice trembled as she answered. Fear. We were afraid that humans would disrupt the galactic order that had brought peace for millennia. And did we? In the centuries since you murdered my ancestors, has the galaxy seen the disruption you feared? No, Dr. Yilnaz admitted quietly. Sarah nodded and returned her attention to the full assembly. For 3 centuries, humanity has existed in the shadows of your civilization. We have watched, learned, and prepared. Not for revenge, though that would have been justified. We prepared for this moment, the chance to create a better galaxy. She gestured, and the chamber's display systems activated, showing detailed analyses of galactic society. The data was overwhelming in its scope and accuracy. Your civilization has stagnated, Sarah announced. Technology advances at a crawl. New species are integrated slowly and often incompletely. Conflicts simmer for decades because your council cannot make decisive choices. Ambassador Kreeth rose from her seat. And you believe humanity can do better? I believe humanity has already done better, Sarah replied. We have achieved in 3 centuries what your council has failed to accomplish in 3 millennia. The display showed images of human colonies throughout the galaxy, hidden settlements that had existed undetected for generations. But these weren't the primitive refugees the council expected. They were thriving cities with technology that seemed almost magical. We have learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level, allowing us to terraform worlds in days rather than decades. We have developed instantaneous communication across galactic distances. We have created technologies that make scarcity obsolete. She paused, letting the implications sink in. More importantly, we have maintained unity among our people while respecting individual differences. The diversity you fear as chaotic, we have learned to see as strength. Chancellor Morden found his voice. What do you want from us? Sarah smiled for the first time since entering the chamber, but it was not a pleasant expression. What we want is simple. We want you to step aside. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Representatives from dozens of species began shouting questions and protests. Sarah waited patiently for the noise to subside. The Galactic Council has governed this galaxy for over 5,000 years, she continued. Your system works well for maintaining stability, but stability is not enough. The galaxy faces challenges that require innovation, adaptation, and decisive action. The display showed images of the galaxy's outer rim, where hostile forces had been probing Council defenses for decades. The Void Seekers from beyond our galaxy have been testing your boundaries for 50 years. Your response has been to reinforce existing defenses rather than develop new countermeasures. She gestured again, showing climate data from hundreds of worlds. 17 inhabited systems are facing ecological collapse due to industrial pollution. Your council's response has been to form study committees that have produced no actionable solutions in 30 years. Each example struck home, highlighting failures that every representative knew about but had been unable to address through traditional council processes. Humanity offers a different approach, Sarah said. We will not rule through committee and consensus. We will lead through competence and results. Ambassador Kreeth stood again, her insectoid features sharp with anger. You're demanding we surrender our freedom to human tyranny? No, Sarah replied calmly. We're offering partnership with human leadership. Every species that accepts human guidance will benefit from our technologies, our knowledge, and our protection. Those who refuse— She didn't finish the sentence, but her meaning was clear. Dr. Yilnaz spoke up again. Admiral, how can we trust a species that has spent centuries planning our downfall? Sarah's expression softened slightly. Doctor, we have not planned your downfall. If we had, you would all be dead already. We planned your transformation. The truth hit the chamber like a physical blow. The humans hadn't returned for revenge or conquest. They had returned to save a galaxy that couldn't save itself. You have a choice, Sarah announced, addressing every representative. Accept human leadership and benefit from our guidance, or continue down your current path and face the consequences of your own limitations. She activated a final holographic display showing 2 possible futures. One where human technology had transformed the galaxy into a utopia of abundance and exploration, and another where the Council's current course led to stagnation and eventual collapse. We will not force compliance, Sarah said. But we will not allow the galaxy to continue failing its inhabitants. Worlds that request human assistance will receive it. Governments that embrace human guidance will prosper. Those that resist will find themselves increasingly isolated and irrelevant. Chancellor Morden looked around the chamber, seeing fear and resignation in the faces of his fellow representatives. How long do we have to decide? The decision has already been made, Sarah replied. Not by us, but by history itself. We are simply the instrument of that decision. She turned to leave, then paused at the chamber's entrance. For 3 centuries you believed you had destroyed humanity. Instead, you forged us into something stronger, smarter, and more determined than you could have imagined. The galaxy you tried to protect from human influence will now be transformed by human guidance. As Sarah and her companions left the chamber, the assembled representatives sat in stunned silence. Outside the hall's windows, they could see human ships arriving in orbit around Galactic Prime. Not warships, but colony vessels, research stations, and construction platforms. The age of the Galactic Council was ending. The age of humanity had begun, and despite their fears, despite their resistance, despite their pride, many of the representatives found themselves hoping that the humans would succeed where they had failed. The galaxy trembled, not just in fear, but in anticipation of what it might become under human guidance. The transformation had already begun,